All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Thursday Coaching Circle. I am your host, Mitch Peak, and I'm joined today by KENYON Murray. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. As you know, been a Hawkeye fan for life. So I'm always excited when I get to have, Hawkeye legends as yourself on. So I'm pretty excited. Being that I grew up, 96 is when I graduated high school. So, the 90s was my time, watching Hawkeyes men basketball team. So excited to have you.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be here. It's yeah, one of those things where I don't know if legend is in the vernacular when you're talking about a Murray anymore, especially me with the
Well,
with what the
the boy.
boys have done.
Yeah, your boys may have overshadowed your legacy a bit, but I mean, if you mention Iowa Hawkeye basketball around anyone that knows basketball, they're going to know, one of your name is going to pop up in that conversation. I imagine. So I would consider you, Jess Settles, right up there at the top. So, and of
I
course,
appreciate
it's
it.
great to have you on, and I know we're going to be talking a little bit about what you do outside of basketball. So tell us a little bit about what you're up to and what you're doing now.
Yeah, no, I mean the last few years have been pretty crazy for us, obviously, with both Kris and Keegan. One, national accolades at the University of Iowa, and then both being drafted in the first round. So before the boys got drafted, I was regional manager for Henry Schein Dental. I've been in the dental industry for about 12 years as a sales rep, national trainer, and finally as a regional manager. But since then, business manager for the boys, really kind of helped them navigate the world of professional sports in a way that allows them to continue to just stay focused on basketball. So my wife and I really handle a lot of the daily things. I handle more of the endorsements and contracts and all that kind of stuff while she helps the boys and their girlfriends and fiancés with more the day-to-day stuff, when it comes to the houses and the bills and all that kind of thing. But most recently, I became a certified professional life coach, which is a new chapter in my life that I'm really looking forward to doing. Working with a group in Cedar Rapids called Covenant Workplace Solutions. They provide assistance, employee assistance programs, so counseling and things like that. So it's a new platform for me, but I think with everything I've gone through as a father, as an athlete, and then you throw on the professional training that I've received. I think I just feel called to doing this now, and so I'm excited for this new chapter. And obviously, I'll be traveling a lot with the boys playing, and our daughter's going to University of Oregon, so there'll be a lot of plane flights in the future as well. But just really excited about everything that's going on. The boys are in a really good place with their teams, and Michelle and I are trying to figure out what life is going to be like as empty nesters. So a lot
Yeah,
of
I was
exciting
gonna,
things.
all your kids moved out west, so you're stuck here in the Midwest, and you're going to have to do a lot of traveling to go see them. So you got what, two in Oregon, one in California. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Our oldest, who came to live with us when he was 17, we took guardianship of him. He actually lives in Coralville, and he and his fiance have a 1-year-old son. So we're grandparents, and so we'll continue to have roots here in Iowa, but obviously travel a lot to see the kids. And our daughter's one where she doesn't want us out west. She said when she gets a break from school, she wants to come back home. So the Murrays aren't going anywhere. We'll be here for probably we're lifers. We're
yeah,
lifer Iowans.
that's awesome. Yeah, a lot of people say they want to leave, but it's not always. When you leave home, you always miss it, regardless of where it's at for sure. So, yeah, man, I'm excited for your new career and what you got going on because, like you said, you've been doing a lot of different stuff, and it's kind of a calling for you. You've raised some great kids that are doing great things. So clearly, you're doing life right, and I'm sure those boys can attest to being raised. By you, that it's been great for them and their careers, and what you've done for them, getting to where they're at. I remember when they got came to Iowa, and everyone was like, these boys weren't even highly recruited. Like, where are they coming from? Like, are they just getting in because of their name? It's like all this talk, and I'm like, and then they show up and instant impact, so
Yeah.
it's awesome to see.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, whenever you have, you know, your sons or daughters, whoever it is, following your footsteps, whether it's in business or in this case, sports, there's always going to be probably some level of skepticism because I was a pretty good player and the boys weren't as highly touted or recruited like I was coming in. And so, but I always knew what they had in them. Obviously, Fran saw the same things and knew that they would be able to contribute to the program in different ways. Even though people will see them, they look the same. They have a lot of the same skill set, but I think they both impacted the program in different ways. And that's one of those things that just comes with the territory. I told the boys to get ready for people that didn't believe in them. I mean, that's obvious. They always were the underdogs. Nobody recruited them heavily until they got the DME, and honestly, it was a lot of their dedication to their craft is really how I've been able to kind of build this speaking platform as well. A lot of the things that I've come up with, whether it's the 3 keys to greatness or the 4 E's of personal growth, really were born out of my watching them go through the process of getting to where they are today. The dedication to things, being willing to sacrifice, whether it was time with friends or, hanging out or whatever it was, they sacrificed those things because they knew their end goal was to play at the highest level, which in this case is the NBA. And so for me, they've been an inspiration, right? You talk about Michelle and I raising, good kids. They have really shown us, a lot of things to one, staying, focused on your goals, doing the little things day in and day out. And that commitment has really just been an inspiration, not only to us, but obviously to their brother and their sister. And so, yeah, so it's just really fun to be on this journey, but it's never ending. Growth is never ending. So there's always going to be something that we all have to improve on, whether it's Keegan working on his mid-range game or Kris putting in and getting the reps up so that his outside 3-point shot is more consistent. There's always things that we have to work on. And that's the same with me too, professionally. There's been a lot of success, but it's constant. There's constant growth because there's going to be different obstacles in the way. We grow older, we change, things in our lives change. So we have to be able to have the tools in place for us to make those adjustments to make sure that we're still maximizing each day and we're living up to potential that we all have.
Absolutely. And I think both the boys, played with and followed, one of the hardest workers in, college basketball, and Luka Garza, watching him and the way that he puts in work, watching the boys and how they put in work. I mean, it's a lot of the same thing. If you want something, especially making it to the NBA, it takes a lot of, like you said, a lot of dedication, but a lot of, no, I can't go hang out with my friends. No, I can't, go watch the football game. No, I can't, I got to put in time. I got to put in work. And sometimes there's a lot of sacrifices. And, same can be said with business, if you want to be successful, you got to put in more than 40 hours. You got to do this, more than the next guy is going to do.
Yeah, you do. And it's about, I think, to be great at anything, you have to fall in love with the process, right? So we're going to spend more time working and honing our skills in whatever industry or profession we're in than we actually will be doing it. You spend 4 or 5 hours preparing for a meeting that might be an hour long, right? As an athlete, you're in the weight room, you're working on your skills, you're in the training room a lot more often than you're on the actual floor playing the game. And so I think anyone that wants to be great has to love the process of being great. And it takes a lot of dedication. It takes, I mean, more than anything, there's just a lot of, I call it stick-to-itiveness, because there's going to be good days and bad days. We always talk about being ready for the opportunity when it arises. And I think that's what Kris and Keegan did at Iowa, where, we had the unfortunate, instance of when Jack Nungy lost his father. That opened the door for Keegan to come in and play. And then obviously the same thing for Kris. He had to wait a year, but once he got to his sophomore year and the door opened for him, it's about taking advantage of that. But it's all about being prepared and being ready for that opportunity when it comes. So
Yeah,
it may
you
seem
never know when your opportunity is going to show up. So you always got to be ready. Like you said,
yeah, absolutely.
they both kind of got their chance, and it just kind of happened that way. So
Yeah,
absolutely, man.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
as Kobe always said, he never took a shot in a game that he hadn't taken 1,000 times in practice. So, you got to practice, you got to put in the work, you got to put in the effort, and in order to be good. So, I'm
Yeah.
excited, man. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to let you have the screen. You got the PowerPoint you want to bring up?
Yeah, I did. I did.
Awesome. The people tuning in didn't come to watch me talk, so I'm gonna step out of the way and let you take over here.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. No, I appreciate it. So, as we were talking before, one of the things I speak on is the 4 E's of personal growth, and I always kind of preface each presentation with the fact that the last 6 years for me have been very transformational personally, and a lot of the changes weren't easy. They were things that I had to really look in the mirror and really accept about myself in order to make the necessary adjustments to be the man that I want to be day in and day out. And I know if I'm a good man, then I'll be a good father, good husband, all those kind of things, good son, good friend. And so this is a process that was really, really intricate for me when it came to my own personal growth. And so what I like to start out with is, you know, a neat little quote that I think is so true. It's like we can't become what we need to be by remaining where we are. So any change that you want to make in your life, you're going to have to evaluate where you are in life and where you want to go, and then try to put the necessary steps in place in order to get to where you want to go. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm super excited. Just got my certification as a professional life coach, and for me, I'm all about helping people move forward. And hopefully some of my experiences will be able to help that. But yeah, so the 4 E's of personal growth. So what are those, right? What are the 4 E's? Starts with establish, execute, evaluate, and evolve. And this is really something I've been working on for the last 6 years because there's all kinds of self-help things out there, right? And everybody needs different things when it comes to, just what's going to work in their life based on their current situation, whether they're a full-time parent or they work full-time, those kind of things. Like there's all these things that can get in the way. But I think if we can simplify it, in this case, to 4 different things, I think it's manageable in that respect. So the first E is establish. And by that, we need to establish habits or routine that are going to help you maximize every part of your life. I think there has to be balance. So whether it's meditation, prayer, exercise, nutrition, education, for me, one of the big things in my life right now is mentorship, is really extending myself, taking people under my wing that I may be able to help in various ways. And so we all know, like, we have good habits and we have bad habits. And the idea is to figure out what things are working for you and what things aren't. And so you have to really figure that out, like what's worked for you in the past to help get you where you are. But a lot of times the things that we put in place in the past to get us where we are, they don't help us in our current state. So for me personally, it was, I was a guy that would shut down if something came up that I wasn't ready to talk about, right? And so that might have helped me when I was a kid, self-preservation, protection, like really becoming an introvert when it came to certain things that I faced when I was a kid. Well, now that's not going to work. As a father, a husband, a business owner, a friend, like you can't shut down like that. And so some of the things that may have helped you in the past won't help you in your current state or where you want to go. And there's also understanding, like, establishing habits is part of a transformation, and it's not easy. That's the one thing that I will never sugarcoat, is change is never easy. Whether you're moving to a new place, getting a new job, trying to change some things internally, it's not easy, and it's not quick. And a lot of times it's not always simple, right? Like there's going to be times where something that you thought was a simple fix or change is a lot more, it's deeper. And I refer to something like, just with working on my marriage. My wife and I, we went through a little bit of a bumpy road in 2018, 2019. We were contemplating getting divorced. And one of the things that I had to realize is like looking in the mirror and taking ownership of what I did to put us in that situation. Like that was one of the hardest things I ever had to do, was one, to admit I was wrong, to admit that some of the things that I had done had jeopardized our relationship. And so trying to figure out like, okay, how am I going to navigate this time of my life was really tough. And so I'll never sugarcoat anything when it comes to, the ease of it. And, your habits, once again, are defined by your success or your failure, right? You look at, I was looking at working out. I was working out like maybe 3 or 4 times a week, but I wasn't seeing the results. And so I'm like, okay, what do I need to change in order to get some of the results I want to see? It's like, as an athlete, I always performed best when somebody was riding me, right? Like when a coach was telling me that, hey, you got to do this harder, do this better. And so I actually hired a personal trainer. Like I'm not saying everybody needs to hire a personal trainer, but for me, that was something that I had to do in order to see the results. And so once again, those habits became good habits. I started seeing results. And so, understand that the habits that you put in place, you're either going to succeed or you're going to fail, and it's okay. And one of the things I found really, really interesting as I was developing in this process is that it's easier. The numbers show that it's easier to change a habit, even though it may be a bad habit for you. It's easier to change a current habit that you already have than to form a completely new one. Because sometimes a habit, though, may be bad, it fits into the lifestyle that you're in. It fits into your timeline. It fits into everything that you have going on. So that may be something that you can say, okay, it fits where I'm at in life. I know I need to change it. So what do I need to do with this habit to make it a positive one for me? And so, don't always think you have to just completely scrap everything that you've been doing and turn to something new. You can actually take a current habit and turn it into a positive one. So if you know me, I'm a quote guy. I like to have things that really remind me, whether it's scripture or just great quotes. And this was one that I think is really cool when it comes to personal growth. Is every day you do something that will inch you closer to a better tomorrow. And you're not going to change everything in one fell swoop, right? It's going to be a process. It's a process of success and a process of failure. But it's going to take time. And I think that's the one thing that you have to understand. And then thinking about inching closer is, okay, what am I executing today that's going to help in my personal growth? And so once again, establishing habits is an ongoing process. And like I said, you'll stumble. I just don't ever want people to think that they may see me now and say, oh, you're in such a good place. It must have been easy for you. It's like, no, it was actually the hardest thing I had to do, was to make the necessary changes. One, to save my marriage, and two, just to become the best version of myself each and every day. Um, so the key to executing is creating a routine that your brain recognizes as a pattern. And one of the things that I've done is actually change my sleep pattern, right? So you go through the day, and a lot of times we're so busy, we're staying up late or getting up early. We're kind of running ragged at times, but I've made it a point to try and be in bed every night at 10 o'clock. Now, I may not be falling asleep at 10 o'clock, but that's the one thing I try to make sure that I'm in bed at 10 o'clock. And depending on where I'm traveling and things like that, that might not be the case. If I'm at an NBA game or something, I'm probably not going to get to bed at 10 o'clock. But those kind of things are what you need to do, whether it's fasting or, you eat the same breakfast. There's a funny story about a routine is Keegan's, and Keegan set the record for most consecutive threes made in the basketball game in the NBA. And the record was 10 in a row, and he made 11. And at the podium in the post game, they said, hey, what did you do different today? And did you eat something different or whatever? Keegan's like, nope. I woke up at 8 o'clock. I had the same breakfast: eggs, bacon, toast, and fruit. I had my protein shake. I went to the gym. I did the same thing. That's what I do every day. So he said, it was like they asked, is anything going to change? He's like, no, I don't have to change anything because that's my routine. And it's so wild to see because even when we go see him, we understand what his routine is. And he comes home after pregame practice. He has his lunch, and then he goes takes a 2.5 hour nap. Like, and so we know we can't mess with his pattern if he wants to perform. So having a routine is something I think is really key to what you're doing. And sometimes too, it's getting up. If you like to read, you're reading a book, or if you like to read scripture, like just understand like the more you set a routine for yourself, the easier you're going to be able to make that a true habit, and you'll start to see changes that you want to see. You also have to think about, okay, what's the reward? We talk about Keegan's routine that helped lead him to that record game, but you know, what do you do if for me, it's like, you get a reward. So I know I'm trying to lose weight incrementally, and sometimes you have a really good week. So maybe that weekend, my reward is, going and having a couple cocktails, or maybe it's that dessert I've been skipping all week. But you want to make sure that you reward yourself. I think in business, it's funny. Someone told me that when you have your own business, a lot of times we think we got to take care of everybody else. And I'm not going to take a salary for the first 6 months of doing this business. Well, that's not a good thing, because you find yourself grinding every day. And then what's the reward? You have to get something out of all the hard work. And so a very, very smart business person told me, like, you always have to pay yourself something when you start a new business. So in that instance, that's the reward. And you'll start to see that your brain responds faster to a trigger when it deems it worthwhile. So you're going to get this reward at the end of it. So why not, you know, have a great week of working out or whatever it is? You see the results, and yeah, you can indulge yourself a little bit. So, but execution is just the idea of doing the things day in and day out that are going to get you closer to that end goal. And like I said before, it's not about doing it super fast. Everything is about increments. Everything is about inching. Because the thing is, if something happens too fast, as fast as it came, you can lose it as well, because it came in a way that wasn't organic. And I really talk about personal growth and development as, or it's got to be organic. It's got to fit in everything that you're doing in life. It has to fit who you are. My workout's not going to be the same as my wife's workout. It's not going to be the same as Kris and Keegan's, but it's mine. So everything that you do is going to be directly tailored to who you are as a person. So I love this. So John Maxwell, I've been introduced to him through a lot of people, and he's obviously one of the foremost leaders on leadership and development. And he says, if you aren't making any mistakes, it's a sure sign you're playing it too safe. And, it goes back to what I said, there's going to be ups and downs, right? But you have to push the envelope. And I think if you get really comfortable in the things you're doing, then it's time to move on. It's time to really look at, okay, am I really pushing myself? Because this is really easy. Are you in a safe place? And I think there is no personal growth without being uncomfortable. You have to be uncomfortable, because if you stay still, you don't grow. If you keep doing the same things that have got you where you are, you're never going to go any higher. So there's got to be a little level of uncomfort in order for you to continue to grow. And so this is probably the toughest part of the 4 E's is evaluation, right? You have to evaluate who you are. You have to, you've established habits, you've executed them, you've tracked them to see what their impact is. And now what? Now you really have to take a step back and evaluate your progress. Is there anything that needs to stay the same, something you need to alter, or do you need to scrap it all together, right? So, but evaluation, the reason I say it's the hardest thing to do is because you have to take an honest self-assessment, a personal inventory. You have to look at yourself and say, okay, am I really doing these things to the best of my ability? Have I settled into a routine that's really easy and now I'm comfortable with it? That's really hard. For me personally, when the person that you love the most in the world tells you that you're not the person they married, they tell you that you've changed, or you are more interested in other things outside of the family, and to try and take that at heart can be, it can be a kick in the stomach, however you want to put it. So one of the questions that was asked to me during counseling was, what do you want your life to mean? And at that point in time, I struggled to figure that out because I was in a place of trying to figure out who I was. It's crazy to think that though I have had success in the sports world, in the sales world, business world, I still was struggling with who I was as a person. And when I had to look in the mirror, it's like, okay, like what do I have to strip down? What are the things that are holding me back? What are the things that are preventing me from being the best version of myself day in and day out? And that honest self-assessment took me to a very dark place. And I really had to figure out what I was going to change in my life because I didn't feel like the people around me were the reason I was in that place. It was because of me. And so the ownership that you have to take when it comes to your personal growth is a huge one. And it's one that a lot of people struggle with, I included. Um, and so, moving on, like I said, the most difficult thing in life is to know yourself, right? I think we all probably figure we know ourselves pretty well, but do we really? And are we willing to have someone outside give us their honest opinion or their honest look? And being married for 25 years now, I think if you have a significant other, there's probably no better person to give you an outside look of who you are than the person that you go to sleep with every night. And that's really what it was. And interesting thing too about my personal growth was our our counselor asked me how many, you at this point in time, Michelle and I had been married about 19 years. And he said, well, how many of those years have been good? And I was like, oh man, well, the last couple of years have been, a little bumpy, right? So I'm thinking, everything else has been great. And then he asked Michelle the same question. And she said the first two were really great. And I'm like, wow. Like you talk about having a very blurred vision of what your marriage is and to have the person that you love the most tell you that, like that was very eye-opening to me. And it really made me realize that my view of myself, my view of our marriage, and probably my view of the world needed to be evaluated from me. And so I really had to look inside and figure out, okay, here's what I need to do. And the one thing about my wife was that even at this point in time, I'm doing all these things to make myself a better person, but she still was like, I'm out. Like, and all I wanted to, at the end of this journey, I was like, I want to stay married. But she was at a point where I really needed to make some serious changes for her to stay with us. And so once again, personal growth, though we may have the most positive outlook about it, or we're thinking if I grow, like I'm going to be able to do this professionally or that professionally. Um, I think when you look at personal growth, it's like, how do I become the best version of myself day in and day out? And I think if you have that outlook on what you're doing, not only will you reach the goal that you're set for yourself, but you're going to impact a lot of people around you because they see that. So the last part is obviously too one of the toughest things for me is now you have to evolve, right? Um, the core meaning of evolution is the gradual development of something growing more complex. That means you have the ability to evolve through the choices you make and the intentions you set every single day. Now, that decision you make today, you may not see a benefit from that, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 2 years from now, right? But that choice that you make today is really going to impact that. And so um, when it comes to evolution, you have to become aware of your thoughts, your emotions, reaction, likes, dislikes, this subconscious programming that for me at 50, there's a lot there. Um, the choices, the conscious choices you make day in and day out, the relationships. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you surrounding yourself with people that are going to hold you back? Are you surrounding yourself with people that are going to lift you up? Are you surrounding yourself with people that are going to push you forward? Um, these are the things that I thought were very, very, I didn't know if I would do it. I'm like, I have to think about the decisions like every decision I make, I have to think about, every emotional reaction. If someone says something to me, and I have to think about what am I going to say back to elicit the right emotional response. Um, that can be very daunting. And I was like, bro, I don't know if I can do this every day. But now as I look back, those daily decisions have led to now an unconscious, I don't know if you say an unconscious programming of always trying to do the right thing, always trying to make the right decision, always looking at the world around me and saying, is this decision going to affect people positively or negatively? Is it going to affect me positively or negatively? And I didn't really think I could do it. I really didn't. But the habits, the routine, the daily decisions that I made along this journey have put me in a place now where I literally feel like I'm on autopilot when it comes to doing those things that are going to be best for me, best for the people around me, best for the people I employ. Um, it was one of those things. Like I was like, okay, this is not going to happen. I can't do it. I felt defeated a lot of the time, but I just kept putting in the work, and that's what we have to do. And like I said, you have to understand how your mind, body, and soul operates if you hope to make a positive change. And going back to the evaluation part, I'm telling you, and I know there's probably people that are watching this that are saying, "Man, it's hard to look in the mirror and be honest with myself sometimes." It really is, and it even comes down to even like our body image, our self worth. Those are all things that you're going to have to evaluate when you're looking in the mirror. Like, are you happy with what you see externally, for one? Are you happy with that? Are you happy internally how you feel? When you scarf down a whole sleeve of Oreo cookies or whatever it is. I'm just kind of throwing it out there because usually weight and exercises are things that people are mostly looking to change. But you have to know how you operate. You have to know what makes you happy. You have to know what makes you feel good. And then the people around you have to understand that as well. Because in the end, if you're not happy with who you are, where you're going, who can be happy around you? Right? You have to change you for you. And there can't be any other reason for you to change. If you're going to change because somebody says they want you to be this so you can be the best boyfriend or girlfriend, like that's not right. You have to change for you. So with all that, I know I've been talking a lot. But change, man, changing habits, it's personal. Just like I said, change has to be for you. It has to be a personal goal of yours to make the necessary changes in your life in order to elicit the personal growth and development that you're looking to get. Each habit is different and requires specific approaches. Um, what you want to do professionally is going to take different habits than what you have to do physically, spiritually. They're all different. They're all different habits. But the thing is, if you can understand what happens needs to be changed or enforced to get the necessary changes in whatever area you're looking at, you'll be one step ahead of everybody else. The growth you desire may require different strategies as well. Those are kind of things I said. The time frame for losing 20 pounds is different than maybe the time frame for getting a promotion at work, or an opportunity that you may see professionally. And I always want you guys to remember that personal growth is a continuous cycle. It's never ending. We're at a point now at the age of 50, we're empty nesters. So what's our life look like now? We don't have a child at home that requires, us to get to this place or that place, or, be here or be there every day. So right now we're going through a different growth cycle, trying to figure out what we're going to do as a couple, Michelle and I, with us being empty nesters. Remember, establish what you must do to reach your desired goal. And once again, that goal is your goal, nobody else's. Remember to execute the routine that will help you reach your desired goal. You might have to adjust it, but stick with it. Stay dedicated to it. And you'll start to see the things happen in your life that you need in order to reach the goal. Evaluate your routine and rewards. Sometimes that is a good thing. It's a bad thing. It's like, okay, well, I'm evaluating this. I've been doing this for 2 months. It's not working. Okay, now I got to go back to the drawing board and figure out what do I need to change um, here in this desired goal, whether it's, like I said, I'm always throwing, the physical part of there, but okay, I've been eating this way, I've been working out this many days a week. Okay, I'm not seeing the results. Okay, so now I got to go back and figure out, okay, what do I need to change? And then evolution is positive and is the result of your personal desire to be the best version of yourself. I think that's the one thing that I can look back now and say my evolution was a 6-year evolution. Um, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of years. But I feel that after this last 6 years, I'm in a place where I have the necessary tools in place. I have the necessary habits in place that whatever goal I set for myself moving forward, I'm going to be able to take this process, work through it, and reach that goal. And so it is. It's an ongoing cycle of who we are as people. But once again, evolution is something that the human race has done, for thousands and thousands of years, and will continue to do thousands of years into the future. So, with that, that's the end of my presentation. I really want to thank a lot of people. Storyline Multimedia, they're my production company that does my podcast. Montgomery Companies, they've been awesome in helping me really reach this goal of being able to speak and talk to different groups of people. Elevate with Robin is my marketing firm. Actually, it's pretty cool. My niece is the owner of Elevate with Robin, and being able to work with family in this way has been tremendous. And so if you ever want to get in touch with me, I have my own website, kenyonmurray.com. If you want to check out any of my shows, the Leave Your Legacy show on YouTube. And if you have any questions, my email is kenyon.murray@murraylegacy.com. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen and come back to Mitch.
Awesome, man. I love it. You know what they say, that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So when you're
Love
evolving,
that.
you got to think about that. If you're hanging out with people that are doing the same habits you are and are in the same position you are, it might be time to evaluate that and change and try to find new people to hang out with that are going to push you to be better and push you to do the things, like you said, going to the gym or, whatever it is. You got to remember that's important. It's who you hang out with and who you surround yourself with.
Absolutely. And I think too, the one thing that I've honestly really embraced is not being the smartest person in the room, right? Like I want to be around people that push the envelope. I want to be around people that are looking to better themselves and others all the time. And I'm so willing to learn, because one of the things when you evaluate, yourself is you really figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are. And so I want to be around people that are going to, you know, you know, hold up my strengths, but also address my weaknesses and help me fill in those blanks. And I think, like you said, you are the sum of the 5 people you're around. Like you sometimes have to go outside your comfort zone, and sometimes moving away from friends or family is the best thing for you, but it's one of those things that's not met with cheer, right? Like, oh,
Right.
you think you're better than me and stuff like that. It's like, no, like we all have, I feel, a higher calling, and it's, do we embrace that? And by embracing that, are we putting ourselves in a position where we can learn more about it? We can come as versed in it as we can. So I think it's important that we surround ourselves with people that are better in areas that we struggle in
Right.
order for us to learn and become, once again, the best version of ourselves.
Well, they say if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Absolutely. We were just talking about that with basketball. If you're the best player in the gym, you're in the wrong gym.